our president, Kay James, looked at the debate as it was developing and really became concerned that there was this dichotomy between people who were arguing from a health perspective and others arguing from an economic perspective. You know, at this point, it's a little hard to remember how separated people were in terms of everybody needs to stay home or people go back to work. And we felt like it was important to kind of lift our heads up, look over the horizon and say, what's it going to take to talk about this issue holistically, about both lives and livelihoods?
For instance, there were certain populations, older people who had pre-existing health conditions, who are more susceptible and vulnerable to COVID-19. And yet there were some counties in the country, in fact, over half of the counties, really not impacted at all. And so we advocated having more targeted and temporary measures as opposed to statewide stay-at-home orders.
We don't need to redefine human nature. We don't need to redefine sex. And that's exactly what the Supreme Court did yesterday. What they said is that if you don't treat a man who identifies as a woman as if he actually is a woman, you're discriminating on the basis of sex and you're violating federal law. And if that's the case for employment law, it's going to have huge implications for other areas of the law that also ban discrimination on the basis of sex.
Police brutality is an issue that has to be dealt with. The police has to get out of the business of punishing people. They are there to protect us. And I must say that they do a very good job of protecting society. There are some really bad apples that the system needs to deal with. What I'm seeing right now, though, is that this movement that was created, the country was united in being repulsed by what happened to George Floyd. So this widespread revulsion felt by all Americans. This movement has now, in some parts of it, have metastasized in this lurch, this power grab by some members of the far left to change society in ways that are not good.
Well, at the end of last year, North Korea had said there was a deadline that the U.S. must respond or really abandon our policy and make it softer towards North Korea. They threatened to unveil a strategic weapon, and then really nothing has happened since the beginning of the year until now. And that may have been because of COVID. They really shut down the country a lot. Kim Jong-un perhaps had health problems, which led to 2 extended absences. And so now they may be coming back to their usual game of provocation. Although, people are more concerned about what's going on, in the near term. If it were a barroom fight right now, we're still at the hold me back stage rather than having devolved to the hold my beer and watch me do something.
Well, look, the top officials working under Obama, the head of his FBI, the head of his national intelligence, his chief of staff, were all engaging in unmasking of intelligence intercepts of campaign personnel and people in the transition. Are we supposed to believe that they did all this without letting the president know about it, that he didn't participate in the decision-making on this? That's very hard to believe, and I certainly wouldn't believe that about President Obama. So he was, I think, intimately involved in all of the wrongdoing that went on with this.